Okay, welcome to the Stellify podcast. Tonight I've got Ola Volny with me from selfmasteryquest.com. I've been following a bit of Ola's work over the past 12 months and she's blown me away pretty much every time that I've listened to her. So I'm made up, and it's an honour, Ola, that you're joining me for a chat today. I've got a number of questions. I want to deep dive with you, and I'm sure you're going to give me a lesson tonight, which is is exactly what I'm looking for.
Well, hopefully nothing too
nothing that you can't handle. Ola.
Hopefully nothing too controversial.
Oh, nothing controversial, no. I daren't have YouTube keep slapping me hand. You know what I mean? I've had that over many years now. So I'm interested.
Yeah, thank you for having me. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and honor to be here.
It's an honor. It's an absolute honor. Can I ask you, Ola? So your background is in engineering, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did you become interested in sort of the mystical side of this realm that we're in? I mean, it's a complete opposite to the sort of background that you've got in a working sense and an educational background, isn't it? So how did that start?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I have 2 degrees. I have 2 engineering degrees. One is specifically from oil and gas. Another one is from sort of engineering within marketing. That's because that was the university. It was a University of Technology. So I have 2 technical degrees, and I've had a sort of career of probably like 17 years, so something like that within that field. But I wouldn't necessarily call it that I just suddenly got another interest. That kind of mystical, metaphysical side has always been with me pretty much since I was a child. To the annoyance of my mom and my parents, because I was into astrology since I was a child, and they couldn't really understand that. They couldn't really grasp. For them, this was obviously some kind of nonsense. So that was something that I was drawn to, and only in the last years I truly understood why. And of course, it's not because I'm a proud astrologer. No. I don't take any pride in knowing the language of the matrix, but discovering that that's what it is, that I certainly I was quite happy to do. And so pretty much I would say that it was a bit of a side of me that was in the closet. You don't dare to show that side of you when you are in that serious business, serious industry. So it was hidden. It was always my passion. It was always with me, that metaphysical side. And then probably about 10 years ago, it started sort of evolving through that spiritual, and it started pretty much opening up in a sense where I was starting to see that we cannot keep it tucked away anymore, and in the end, I just swapped one for the other.
Right, and so what did people that were close to you think about that at that time? Because it's such a bit where the people go, "Yeah, are you crazy, Ola? What's going on here?"
That would be a pretty spot on description. People thought pretty much what they thought of all of us when we were exposing the COVID narrative and the vaccines and everything, right? Weren't we all crazy? And that was the same for me. My family, especially the sort of female side of my family, they very much pride themselves in the fact of sort of moving from poverty through education into a better life. So there's a certain expectation and a sort of certain assumption about how one should live life and what would sort of bring the optimal result. And of course, I walked away from that path, and they really couldn't reconcile, what on earth happened here, how I can walk away from a thriving career, and I've had a really good time in oil and gas, as you know, when it lasted. But it just wasn't there anymore. And you know, obviously, as you start sort of putting the dots together, and the picture comes together, and it is the matrix, and you start seeing that, you know, the rat race and the fact that we are literally being we're living in that illusion of pursuing the material things and the status and the goals that are set up for us, you know, by the system. And you, at some point, you wake up to all of that, you see all of that. I mean, you cannot really be part of it anymore. So it was quite painful, I must say, because I didn't really get support. You know, I didn't really get sort of backing from my family for this transition. It was pretty a lonely path for a few years. But you know, right now, as I've clearly demonstrated some high level of not only determination, but clearly, you know, things have worked out in many ways, because I've sort of stuck to my guns, and it seems like, you know, it wasn't a sort of momentary interest that just kind of disappeared. No, this is who I am. And so I think there's maybe even a little bit of acceptance somewhere sneaking in.
Well, I was going to say, so how are they feeling now? Because obviously you're doing well. I presume you're doing quite well. I mean, you're very busy. I mean, you've been flying about recently as well, haven't you? I think you've just come away from a conference in the States as well. So you are getting about. So are they recognizing, your family and friends recognizing that actually your path is really opening up for you now?
I would say that, you know, my family, or my immediate family, they don't really follow that so closely. I probably, you know, my mom, she would have a difficulty describing what the hell am I doing. You know, my dad is more switched on, and he's kind of more up and running in those things. But overall, you know, I've never, my intention was never to sort of get out there, and the fact that I don't have my channel is probably one of the evidence for that, because it is not my intention to be famous. It is not my intention to sort of be recognized, and you know, I'm not sort of after that popularity and the likes and the followers, etc. And if I was, I would have done it in a totally different way. I'm just not interested. I know that a lot of people find it really weird, but that's just how it is, and I'm going with, you know, whatever is sort of driving me from the inside. So I've been pretty much doing my thing, you know. I do what I believe in. I obviously work with people through my readings, through my consultations. I work with people through sort of individual contact. People come here to the Arctic where I live, and I organize events. I organize tours into very special places, into very sacred, legendary sites, energy centers. Honestly, I've been to many places around the world, and I've not felt energy so strong and so particular, so primordial like here. So you know, there's sort of part of my calling, which is to do with letting people immerse themselves in this energy, in this experience, as I take them on a sort of little journey through a bit of mythology, a bit of shamanism, a bit of alchemy, because it is all wrapped up together. And then they see that perspective, how our forefathers, foremothers, you know, back in a day, they already knew what we are now discovering. You know, we knew it all along, including the matrix, including how to get out of the matrix. So I, you know, that is my purpose. This is what I love doing. And I actually probably most like to be quite private and withdrawn. So yes, indeed, I was in the States last month. That was my first conference that I was invited to. I was like, we were laughing before we were recording that I was a bit naughty out there, so might have been the first one and the last one. Who knows? But you know, I'll be actually publishing the the presentation from that very soon, so you will see what I mean. I might have earned the biggest heretic badge out of all. It was a Gnostic conference, so yeah, you know, you just gotta be yourself, right? Stick to your guns.
Absolutely, you have to be. You have to be. Okay, so it's this is only one of the many things I love about you, Ola, is that obviously you come from that very strong educational background, and you're obviously very intellectual. And there's so many people that are in this field, if you like, that don't come from that background. They come a bit more woo-woo, if you like, and a bit more out there. So I think there's more of an opportunity for people that are, let's say, not on board with the things that we discuss and what we put out there. There's more opportunity to listen to someone like you, I feel, because of your background. I think that's why I wanted to put that in early doors, really, because I think it's really important. Right. If we're to reach the general people out on the street that there is something not quite right about this place, it's not exactly what we have been taught, it's not what we've perceived most of our lives. I think coming from someone like you is really important. People think I'm mad, so that's they're not going to listen to me, but they might listen to you. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, you know, my colleagues from oil and gas think I'm mad too. So I don't know if that's the recipe, you know. But and probably worth saying that we. You know, many of us discovered in the last few years that education, right, those papers, they mean nothing. They don't represent any superiority in any capacity other than level of being brainwashed, which obviously I experienced quite extensively. So nothing to be too proud about. However, what I do take away from that engineering path, for sure, from that sort of intellectual arena, and you know, a lot of critical thinking, a lot of sort of very logical, analytical, you know, ability to really look at things in a sort of cold way. And yes, I know what you mean, that I'm not sort of coming from that airy-fairy background. I'm coming from pretty, you know, I worked in oil and gas, you know, it's on production, etc. So designing the platforms and stuff like that. So probably what I did take away from there, and I really apply that, is that ability to sort of run everything through scrutiny, being able to sort of explain and connect certain dots, and perhaps present certain complex ideas, or perhaps put certain things together in order to explain, to show how things sort of hung together. So that's very useful. But you know, as I always say, and people who might have had some contact with me before, I always repeat that the mind, ultimately, that was one of my biggest lessons. The mind does not have the answers. You know, and of course, in this matrix, there is such focus and such sort of marketing placed on the IQ, on the mind, on that intellectual function. Of course it is, because in this matrix, the AI matrix, the synthetic mind-based matrix, that's where we are controlled. It's in the mind. It's the mind control. They want us to be in the mind. They want us to be disconnected from our feeling function, from our intuition sensor. So everything needs to be logical. Everything needs to make sense. We're not ever, I mean, you know, maybe some people were lucky to be brought up differently, but you know, most of us, as we are growing up, relying on our feeling and sort of analyzing that, maybe not analyzing, but just going into that feeling, is never really supported, right? It's more ridiculed. It's kind of like, you know, think about it and be logical about it, so get yourself together. Absolutely. So this was probably one of the biggest lessons for me as well. I kind of had to, you know, leave one leg on one side of the bridge, but place the other very much into that metaphysical, very non-mind-based arena. And you know, probably another big discovery for me was that just because the arena is spiritual doesn't mean that people are still not in their mind in there. So a lot of that, and we know the whole New Age. We know a lot of those schools of thoughts, concepts, theories, etc., etc. Everything remains very, very mind based. So for me, you know, coming from that background of being very, very a sort of left brain and intellectual, like you say, logical, analytical, for me to be able to activate that other part of me, perhaps something that's much more feminine, which is, you know, you'll be surprised or maybe not, but it has been a journey for me personally. It's been probably the most important ingredient here.
Okay, so and you're opening up everything I want to talk about, really. You know, this realm that we're in. So back in 2020, and I like to call it a bit of a sort of 2020 vision now, really, because I think it raised consciousness to a large extent to a number of people. I think 9/11 was a catalyst for me. Once I'd kind of recognised what was going on there, which took a while, by the way, because I was so deeply programmed anyway. When it first happened, I was emotionally involved with all of that, you know, and well, the thing is, I recognized where my programming was, and I recognized actually the point where my programming started to break down. And it is frightening as well when that programming starts to break down, because the world changes very, very quickly. So in 2020, we had a pub in the UK. And we signed for that pub the day they shut the pubs, interestingly enough. I wasn't there to run a business. I was there to open the doors for people that needed a home during that period of time. And so I became an activist very much. And I'd never been an activist before. I'm quite a quiet guy, really. I'm only 5'5". I don't like confrontation because I'd get battered, you know what I mean? I'm not that kind of person. But I found myself in a situation where I had to stand up against a village. There was 5 pubs in the village, and I refused to. I played the game for initially, even though I knew it was a load of nonsense, because we'd just moved there. We didn't know how long it was going to be for. But when they started talking about another lockdown, I refused to close. I basically just kept the doors open, and we became a hub for most of the northwest of the UK. It was a fabulous time, but I knew that I was going to lose the business as well. But during that period of time, like you were saying before, or maybe it was off camera, we were talking about people were on YouTube quite a lot, started to look at various things. Now, I'd started a spiritual awakening back in 2012, which was when I recognised 9/11 and all this kind of thing. But I started looking into Gnosticism at that time. I'd never really looked into scripture or before then, you know. And I started seeing a correlation. Do you think there is a correlation to the way the political matrix system works and the way they are controlling us to what the Gnostics would perceive as or describe as archons? Is it possible that we are talking about some of these guys that are playing the game at the top level politics? Are they archonic energy, or are they just puppets for the archons? I've not quite figured that bit out. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So spot on, right? I mean, wherever we really look into the ancient texts, whether that's through the Gnostic texts, whether that's through Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Tibetan, Norse mythology, very, very useful. All mythology is very useful source of information. Shamanism as well, so the accounts of indigenous people, pretty much everywhere we find hard evidence, but you know, like Gnostics say, right, you gotta have eyes to see. We find very hard evidence, not suggesting but claiming that clearly this realm has been once upon a time raided, overtaken by another race, not just one. It's been a myriad of races over time, and of course, you know, depending where you sort of look as your source for that information, they're gonna be either called reptilians, they're gonna be called Anunnaki, they're gonna be called by the Gnostics, right? They're gonna be called the Archons, and all of these names, they pretty much point to the same group of entities that once upon a time came here. And you know, they've established their little sort of playground here, as I call it, this whole matrix, right? They literally encapsulated a part of this arena, however, this whole earth or whatever we're dealing with, whatever it looks like, and they've been running their agenda for a very, very long time. So to your question, I would say that, you know, probably, and that's nothing new, right? That the people that we actually recognize through the TV and press, these are not really the top people, right? These are not, that's not the top of the pyramid. These are the kind of faces that we are allowed to be allowed to see. Are they the Archons? I would say no. I would say that they are the sort of the middle management, if you like. So they are the ones that are standing between us, you know, the peasants, right? For them in their eyes, and their masters, especially if we look into that a little bit from another perspective as well, which is what the prophecies are talking about. Different prophecies, the indigenous prophecies, but also through the mythology. You know, where I am, Norse mythology, very, very beautifully, and it's just, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It's amazing. But the mythology, the prophecies, they talk about the time now, and they specifically call it the end of the world, the apocalypse, right? So they say that there are certain processes that will be happening in this time, which are linked to the energy of the planet, the energy of the sort of the cosmic energy that's going to be coming into this realm, as well as the energy coming sort of from the other side, as above so below, into this realm. And that the effect of that influx is such that it actually changes the energetics of this realm, of this planet, which means that we are already past the point where these races, these archons, would have been even able to physically be here. So the top sort of, you know, the top management, or you know, the ones that are sort of representatives of that other side, in terms of that race, those races, they're not here anymore. Especially the higher, they've not been here for a very long time. Why? Because energetically they are not able to sustain this level of vibration anymore. So of course that they have to have their little, you know, management. Absolutely. Those the ones that can kind of still manage things. But you know, to answer your question, do I think that these are humans in those positions? Absolutely not. I think that they are presented to us in, you know, kind of in suits that look pretty human, right? But what's in there, what's inside of the vehicle, I would say is highly demonic, and that goes for both the political arena, the so-called celebrities. You know, everything is part of the same pack. So obviously, all the governments. I'm not saying that every single person in the government, because actually if you start looking into that, they have no idea what the hell is going on. But there are those that do, right? And of course we have the latest stories to cover up other things that are happening on that celebrity arena, with sort of things supposedly being exposed. But hey, we knew about it for years. This is nothing new. This is just hitting the general public, so that, you know, the eyes are sort of focused on
Absolutely.
one side where something else is happening elsewhere, which is typical. You know, it's quite boring how uninventive they remain with their tactics, right? It's always the same. It's they dangling you something to pay attention over here while they're doing something else over there. So yeah, to sort of back to your question, I would say that you know, those families, those the political sort of leaders, the some of the celebrities, so pretty much everybody of that influence over the masses, they're not us. This is, and they've not been us for a very long time. This is going back to the Babylonian times, Roman times. This is, you know, this is not the last few years.
No, absolutely. It's very much like They Live, the movie, isn't it? These people in the echelons, they're the ones that are in the public eye, influencers as they are nowadays, aren't they?
Exactly.
Even, you know, they're just directing people, aren't they, and distracting people and moving us around in little packs, and it's fascinating to watch. It's just I find it mind blowing now when you start waking up to these things and you start recognizing these things, that the more people do not recognize it. You know, that people like. I mean, it's so ridiculously. It's just ridiculous when you look at Joe Biden and the likes of Boris Johnson. You know, you may as well have been watching the Muppet Show, because that's what it is.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I mean, it's a circus. It's a circus, and you know, give them bread and circuses, and they will never revolt. So you know, that's how it's always been. Nothing's changed, and you know, right now, I think we need to be very, very careful, because there is a lot of people out there that believe that they are waking up. They are, you know, starting to see through the illusions. They're starting to find out, okay, there's something going on with the government. There's something going on with these celebrities. This, you know, obviously they're starting to sort of catch on to all those things that we've been talking about. But there are nets prepared for them to sort of capture them and immediately sort of pull them into another sort of propaganda and another sort of fake narrative, and those people have no idea. And you know, I always say, and this is why, you know, that's what I do. This is why I don't. Some people get maybe triggered that I do not watch anything. I do not spend time on the internet watching what people are saying, or, you know, all this sort of fear propaganda. I don't watch it. And I strongly advise that people don't watch it, that we disengage. It's one thing that we know what's going on. Yeah. If you already know about what we've been talking about right here for the past half an hour, then you're good. Then there is no need to further, you know, connect and supply your energy by getting excited, angry, mad, sad, scared, etc., by whatever is unfolding. Because everything, you know, given even literally the CGI technology that's out there, we cannot even trust and believe nothing anymore. Absolutely nothing.
No, so true, Ola. And if it's right what the Gnostics say about that we are food for the archons, the energy, the negative energy that they're feeding off us, you know, just being on Twitter for a couple of hours will you know, could trigger you to the point where you get angry, and that energy is then being utilized. Monsters Inc., isn't it? That's the way it works. But So what we have then, if we've got these archons, if you like, now above that, then we have a creator, don't we? We have this creator, the Old Testament God, if you like, the demiurge, Is that what you would follow? That we've got that kind of ruling force?
No. I believe that this is misunderstood.
Okay.
This is misunderstood by people interpreting Gnostic text, and the same through religions, right? The God. What is the God? Well, when you actually look into the God concept, the God entity, God is one of them. What we call God is an entity that's one of them. So whether that's Enlil, whether that's Anu, so the Babylonian Mesopotamian, whether that's Ra, once upon a time, or Amun Ra, which, you know, our Christian prayers finish with Amen, secret name of Amun Ra. So please stop and think, who are you praying to, and why do you have to pray to begin with? And this whole idea of a creator or demiurge, that is just that's one of them. There is hierarchy, you know, there are different races. For example, when we look into the Babylonian creation myth, the Enuma Elish, we find out already that there are different races, right? We find out there's a Kingu race. We find out the Anunnaki, that is not even the name of the race. That is just a description of where they came from and that they came to the earth. So Anunnaki, from above, from the skies down onto the earth. So there are different races. There are the reptilians. This is actually not even, that's the kind of middle to lower tier in the whole hierarchy. We have the Draco, we have the top tier of Draco, the Gina Abul. So there's different sort of races within there, and of course, you know, within those, because they are very much their sort of purpose is hegemony, is ruling, right? It is the domination. So yes, it is natural need for them, and that kind of impulse that somebody needs to, it's the pyramid, right? Somebody needs to be on top. So do not be fooled that we're dealing with some kind of God, which is the God that a lot of people want to pray to, the good one, the good guy. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that, okay? The God that you think is the good guy is still one of them. You just don't know that. And when we pray, or when people pray, and when they go and participate in rituals, etc., of any kind, because we're talking the same in the love and light New Agey movements, you're feeding the same entity. So the sort of the structure is very, very cunning. It's designed in a way where, unfortunately, lack of awareness, lack of knowledge doesn't prevent you from participating in it, and from sort of having your energy sucked away into that construct. So that is still that kind of archonic or reptilian, whatever we call that's still that God, that entity resides within that group. Whereas certainly, and I don't like to call it God, because those that gets you know sort of randomly thrown around, people don't know what's the difference. But of course there is that kind of creative intelligence, force, mother, right? Because in the oldest in shamanism, or in the oldest teachings, that creative force is feminine. I mean, it shouldn't even surprise us or trigger us, because creation comes from a woman, right? I mean, it's kind of a woman that gets pregnant. So so that kind of creative power, force, that probably we're not going to be able to grasp what it is, because it's not the bloke in the sky, it's something else. It is probably not even something that can be or should be you know, sort of personificated in any way. It's not necessary. It is something of some kind of different nature. That is there, but it doesn't require any prayer. It doesn't require any, sort of rituals. It doesn't require us to be following any customs or behaving in a certain way, other than do not harm your brothers and sisters, to be worthy of some kind of benefits that should be coming our way from that force. So that's a totally different paradigm.
You heretic, you. So how did we get here then, Ola? How did humanity get here to be what seems to be this cycle of pretty much slavery, really? If we're giving energy and food to these iconic entities, and we're recycling it into this realm, it seems like we've there was a missing link, wasn't there? So I'm always saying there's something happened there from, were we hijacked? Was there a being at that point that was hijacked by these archons, reptilians, Dracos, whatever, to be this slave race, if you like?
So I think that's a very good comparison or parallel we can find in the movie Avatar, which I very often refer to. Avatar, especially the first part. I haven't even seen the other part, but the first part where, obviously everything is flipped, because this matrix everything is flipped in this realm, in this matrix. So we have this blue race, the Avatar people, being invaded by humans, and there is a war, and of course we know what. If you haven't watched, I strongly recommend, but probably most people watched it. So that is another documentary. Not only Matrix is a documentary, this is another documentary. This is very nicely, maybe with some sort of little differences, but this is very nicely capturing a lot of truth, a lot of facts of what happened here. So humanity, actually, what people don't know, and this is also what they are desperate to hide from us. They are desperate to hide from us that humans are highly advanced race, highly advanced race, not in a sort of not in that kind of capacity to have wars, and because that's not advancement, but in that spiritual sense, highly advanced. So there's a lot of people kind of looking up to beings from other star systems, waiting for them to save us, whereas actually they are looking at us, and they have that understanding that humans have been always very advanced. I mean, look at our DNA. We have strands of DNA that are considered junk. They supposedly have no function. Well, I hope that nobody believes that, right? We currently running on 2 strands of DNA. What are the other ones doing? Well, the other ones have been switched off. There's been an intervention that we know about, for example, from the Bible, right? The creation of man is not a creation of man. It is yet another intervention into our DNA. The gods, the fake gods, playing with our DNA, trying to sort of dumb down certain strands, trying to take away and remove certain abilities, because in our full glory we would not be it would not be possible to control us. It would not be possible. And specifically, so what happened here? Well, we had a very advanced, spiritually advanced race living here, and another race of beings that have long time ago lost their connection to that creative force, that feminine force, disconnection happened within those races. The Earth is not the first place where they tried that. If you look into galactic stories, galactic history, into the Sumerian tablets, it turns out that, you know, what we now see in our mythology, in sense of how the constellations are placed in the sky and how they are named and what that represents a story, a history of galactic wars out there before they ever happened here. So these races, these demonic terroristic races, have been doing what they have now done on Earth. They've been doing that before in other places. So they've done that, for example, in the Pleiades. They've done that with Vega. They've done that with other constellations. We are not the first ones. And then they followed the feminine principle, the feminine essence, the feminine, because it is the feminine that creates for them what they want, right? The woman births, the woman creates. I mean, when this is another concept that people don't understand. That's why this is quite difficult to grasp. Why is it so important? Why did they need to kind of come here specifically after women? Well, because they are not capable of creating anything themselves. So things need to happen through females specifically, and that detachment from their own females happened already at that level for those races. So those females of those races, they didn't want to they sort of didn't want to support those actions of the males of those races. So they had to find themselves another environment to be able to run their show. And another one was here. So they've sort of come after us down here, and of course, you know, we were not prepared. We technologically were nowhere near with what they represented, because they are very mind-based. The IQ is extremely high. This is why they are so focused on that IQ even now. Right now, the society is pretty much focused on that kind of mind-based capacities, and that is truly recognized. Whereas the more feminine, that intuition, the kind of feeling, well, that's considered weak and kind of in the background, right? Why? Because that's a direct representation of what they are, how they operate. So when they came here, they knew that as long as we, as that original human race, are you know, we have access to the functions that we do. We have all these strands of DNA which represent something. They represent a lot of abilities and capabilities that are written literally into our makeup. That was not going to work for them. So they started the experiments. They obviously flipped the narratives. If you look into history, we know that originally, I don't want to call it matriarchy, but back in the day, there was a bit of a different way of relating to one another. I don't want to call it matriarchy, but reverence of the feminine for sure. And we find that in archaeology, we find that in history. So something has been changed. Something has been flipped on its head. And pretty much around the time when it was flipped on its head is when that enslavement happened, and their ability to create this construct and to make a success out of those attempts was very much dependent and linked to the fact that women have been sort of pushed to the background. Women's alchemical natural abilities have been blocked, not only by those interventions into DNA, but also by the very fact that the moon was fashioned, and the moon has been sort of reconnected to influence the woman, our menstrual cycle. We have lost that control over time, but not only that, it's very much also, and I always say that it's very much linked to the conditioning and programming through the very kind of social structure where women have been sort of pushed back into certain behaviors, first around sacrifice and sort of, you know, totally giving away their power very much. Often that would be through abuse and all sorts of abuse, which unfortunately alchemically all our centers shut down. And later in the last sort of 150 years, where the sort of the scales were tipping to the other side, so you couldn't keep women anymore in that same sort of sacrificial arena. What happened, because we had all these freedom movements, emancipation movements. So what happens there is they again created an environment for women to step onto the other side of the spectrum, which is women becoming masculine, women becoming controlling, becoming perfectionists, becoming sort of highly critical of themselves, having very high expectations of themselves. All these kind of behaviors, which, you know, later get glorified because they are related to performance, right? I mean, great for corporations if you perform like that, if you give all yourself to that matrix. But, you know, we called it career. And I'm not saying, because mind you, you know that I've done many years in oil and gas, so I've done that path as well. I'm not saying that women should not take that. I'm just saying that our biggest power, our biggest magic, that alchemical magic, lies not in where they lure us into, but it lies in staying within that feminine. And that does not mean bearing children, you know, just so that nobody gets upset there, but it literally means in that connection to that feminine essence, to that feminine alchemical sort of side of us, which is pretty much what we are. So literally the sort of the teachings of Mary Magdalene or Isis, Inanna, teaching of the witches that were burnt at the stakes later in the medieval times, right? That's all, that is a testament of the powers and abilities. I'm not talking about some black magic. I'm talking about alchemical powers of women that have been literally ripped out of our hands through the very fact that women lost contact and lost even understanding of what that true essence of a woman is and where that power resides. And it's not in competition with men.
No, and it's very interesting that, because it makes complete sense to me that we're born into trauma, you know, straight away. As soon as you're born, you're into trauma. It's been noticeable over the past 10 years more that women have had to step up because men have been demasculated as well. So the masculines got softer, and that's due to a lot of programming, but chemicals that were unfortunately finding in our food and our water that we're breathing in. So it's recognizable that men are not men anymore, and women have had to step up. I mean, in 2020, during that period of time, it was in the protests, it was the women that were having to step up because the men weren't. So that's taking the women away from their true essence again.
So you see exactly what a diabolical but very intelligent plan that is, right? That I mean, none of what you're describing is an accident. This is by design. It is on purpose, sort of emasculating men, right? Literally through the very use of hormones within our products that we use every day within the food, you know, spraying us with all sorts of stuff. Same with women, because you know that they use feminine hormones in man's kind of products and masculine hormones in women, so that literally no wonder that right now we have 50 genders, because nobody knows what the hell they are anymore. So you know, all that is an agenda. It is literally an agenda. And when you talk about women needing to step up, well, you know, I would love for women to catch that sort of trick of the matrix here, catch them out on that, and understand that us stepping up does not mean stepping into masculine roles because the men checked out. No, us stepping out, it is critical right now. It is critical. Us stepping up actually means stepping back into our alchemical essence, which is back into where our power lies, because our power is not in trying to mimic or act like men. That's not where we're not designed for that. We're not built for that. We will never fight. We will never carry weights. That's not the point. But that's where they want to redirect us. They want us to be focused on conflicts. They want us fighting battles. They want us fighting each other. They want women, competing with each other, competing with men. They want us angry at each other. They want us angry at the fact that, like you said, men have been, sort of pushed to that place where their masculinity is under attack, right? So angry women are stepping up because now we have to take over. But what is the taking over about? Do not play into their hand. Please do not play into their hand. You need to understand the game. The game is about sort of not only switching those roles. The game is about, of course, getting rid of men in their true healthy masculine energy, because then there is nobody to defend us. But the very same agenda is targeting women, trying to push them as far away from that feminine essence as possible. Why? What's in that feminine essence? Well, in that feminine essence, as it turns out, is not any kind of new agey ritual based practice that we need to step into, but it is the fact that when a woman reconnects to that alchemical essence, which is what we are designed for, that's how we operate. We naturally start to transmute certain energies. Literally, this is alchemy, transmuting lead into gold, right? Lead being low vibrational energies that this realm is feeding on, into gold, into, the golden age. Women do that naturally. This is not an intention. This is not a meditation. This is not, a ritual or anything like that. This is how we are designed, because that's how a woman and her hormonal system. This is how we work. But if we are disconnected from that alchemy, if that just doesn't even activate within us, we cannot make that happen. This is a very condensed version of what alchemy is. I talk about it in a lot of details in many other chats out there, but just to kind of give you an understanding, right? And the viewers, what am I talking about? Why is it so critical, and why women are under attack? Men's highest, biggest job in this world is to protect us and to give us. Why? Because they know that we have this alchemy, that this is how we are built. So this fight is not physical with the establishment. We will never win it physically. We will never win it through literally, grabbing swords and guns and going and taking down the government. They're just gonna be happy with that. This is a battle on another level. It's a battle where men recognize the divinity of a woman, and we all remember how we are constructed and what is our highest calling. And that highest calling right now, at the end of the world, in the apocalyptic time, at the age of Aquarius, is for a woman to become the alchemical woman again. There's work to be done, and I think the program that we have, and especially in the West, we do not recognize at all that we have a potential. The program is so intense from early age, like you were saying about going into a career, the matrix system itself. We are literally, that is your life. That's the programming. That is your life. And because you've stepped out of a good career, I know that I've tried to step back into the matrix because I've got a family to look after and we're struggling financially. I've tried twice since the pub shut. I tried too. I was there too. I know. Before I realize what is going on, I tried to do a re-entry as well. Because you see, in 20, I think it was in 2018, 2019, I tried to make a re-entry. And I thought, it shouldn't be a problem, because with my CV, with my experience and everything, I mean, it's just going to be easy. It was impossible. It just wasn't going to happen. So, one thing that we kind of forget, because there's so much programming by the new age about the trauma and how things supposedly work, and that everything is our fault and we attract the wrong things, all that nonsense. No, my life was very, very easy up until maybe the year 2014. It was very easy. And you know what? 10 years ago, I was really toxic. I mean, all of us, right? We coming with trauma, we coming with all sorts of issues.
Yeah,
but guess what? My relationship back then with men, right? Sort of looking across several years, sort of meeting different people, these men were amazing. These relationships it was my fault that something was wrong in them, they were amazing. So I was the least healed. And I've done the least work at that time, because I haven't done anything yet at that point, right? And everything was hunky-dory and everything was amazing. And then the minute when I'm starting to show signs that, I might become a problem to this matrix, I might maybe, discover something and start speaking about things that are maybe inconvenient. Guess what? Now I'm getting, I'm getting all sorts of obstacles. I'm getting not just now. It started, suddenly the relationships that I have, I enter in a relationship that's beyond toxic, and it's very transformational. But I would much rather have a golden age type of experience rather than some kind of constant, difficulties. And the same, challenges in my workplace, challenges on basically across the board, and that hasn't got any better, probably until the last sort of, I don't know, few years, when I have, well, probably been able to in many ways activate that alchemical power, which kind of bypasses this matrix. That doesn't mean that matrix is now not seeing me or not touching me. They still are, but that kind of reactivity and ability to sort of pull me in and really have an effect on me is much lower. So it is absolutely we need to understand that as long as you pose no threat to the system, you're going to be left alone. You're going to be okay. But the minute you start poking the bear, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it is
it's true. It is true. It's like the Agent Smiths.
And
they just appear.
Yeah,
you're constantly under attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know that sometimes people maybe overinterpret certain things, but I mean in that overall sort of context, that suddenly when you become, when that signal is sent to the matrix that you have now stepped outside of your place,
Yeah, you're the anomaly now. Well, that's it. You're a threat. You're a threat to that system, then, aren't you? So exactly. they don't want that. That's the last thing they want, is people waking up. But it seems to me, especially from 2020, people are waking up. Maybe it's different levels of awakening. Not everyone's talking about what we're talking about now. They're still talking about mainly about the system itself, and they've woken up to the corruption, because that was my first calling. Really, was this world is corrupt. It's a mess. That was my first thing, and it's like, so that it probably took me 10 years to get to the point of going, hold on a minute. This is not just corrupt. This goes further than this. It goes much further than this. So that's when I wanted, that's what Stellify, that's why I've created it really, is to try and create a bridge of, look, this 3D world that we're in, yeah, it's full of dickheads and they're causing us loads of problems. But there's a reason why. It's not about money, because they have all the money anyway.
Exactly.
They've got it all. So it has to be something else.
They created that, right? So it's not that. It's not about that. Yeah. And you know, and right now, the last 4 years, and it's not just the last 4 years, okay? We need to kind of understand that the context of time here is actually much wider. Things might have been more condensed or intensified in the last 4 years. So we've kind of noticed, and we keep referencing the last 4 years, but you know, they knew about the current days for thousands of years. And what I'm specifically talking about is that what the prophecies are talking about, the apocalypse, is a sort of sequence of events, including certain cosmic context and earth context, that is coming together. This is unprecedented event. This has not happened in this matrix before. So they knew about it from the beginning, that this time is going to come. So they were preparing for this. The programming that we're talking about is not accidental. They knew, they anticipated, they prepared for this. So this warfare is being fought on so many levels, and these levels, and it's so cunning from their side. It is really, really difficult to navigate, all these levels. But when you look from that perspective, this is effectively the end of the world. And when we say the end of the world, we mean the end of the world as we know it. In Norse mythology, this time now is called Ragnarok, which is called the doom of the gods. Okay. And men know the doom of the gods, and men as in, those that will be able, because that's what the whole Norse mythology tell you, right? About Ragnarok, that the people that will hide under the tree of life will be able to survive what's coming. But what does that mean, hide under the tree of life? Well, if you go into the alchemical teachings, the tree of life is a very, very powerful, the shamanic teachings, tree of life is a very, very powerful symbol, and it symbolizes very much the woman as well. So people, or especially women that are going, this is why a woman is critical. Age of Aquarius is the Aquarius is not a man, it's a woman. It's a woman holding a pitcher, pouring water of life. So it is about return of some quality. Mary Magdalene very often also portrayed with a pitcher, right? A woman with alabaster jar. So Aquarius is a woman. We're standing at the gateway to the age of Aquarius. So we are literally, and the apocalypse has already begun. And we know that because Vatican in 2017 confirmed that the apocalyptic sign described in the Bible has already been observed, and that is the equinox, the fall equinox 2017. So the sequence has already begun. We are already witnessing the end of the world. So right now, what we're seeing is desperate actions on that side, kind of trying to grab everything and every opportunity to at least extend the game, although probably in the kind of level of demonic kind of egocentric view of life. They probably think that maybe they still have some way to escape it, or maybe to sort of win here. Do they? Well, they've tried to intervene into our DNA again. And that is a way to do it, because, of course, if they are intervening in our DNA, then we are not able to interact with the energies that I'm talking about, because those energies are directly, we're talking about certain energies that are coming from the kind of original codes of creation, original codes that are activating our DNA. If our DNA is fragmented to a point where it's beyond help, then those energies are not going to sort of resurrect that state, right? So yeah, kudos to them for thinking about that. Nice one. But hey, how many of us who knows what's going on took the jab? Obviously nobody. So it's
they're trying.
They're trying, and this is why I say, be very, very careful, not just with what's obvious, because the fact that the celebrities, the governments, all that's awareness. That's not awakening, that's awareness, and that is now obvious. But then the biggest trap is the false ascension. Is this whole false spirituality, is this whole idea of sort of what's going to happen to us, and the indigenous people are talking about it as well, that look what they're trying to create for us. They're trying to create pretty much a virtual world, right? They're trying to kind of pull us into this AI robotic kind of multiverse universe, whatever it is. They're trying to disconnect us from nature as much as possible, and a lot of people are drawn to that. A lot of people are really taking the bait on that, the digital currency, playing with Bitcoin, playing with all these kind of things. That's part of what they want you to sort of pursue, that kind of world. So are we gonna stay true to the Pandora, right, from Avatar, like the blue people, or are we going into this kind of metaverse of demonic creation? So
yeah, I agree. And if I see a soul trap, I see that as the soul trap. That's where I see it. If you're gonna get trapped in, it's a dream within a dream. That's a simulation within the simulation.
Exactly.
And then it's going to be harder. The labyrinth just gets tougher to get out of. It's hard enough as it is.
Absolutely. And you mentioned before that people are so programmed that there is all this technology available, and people just kind of use it, and all this mind control, etc. We talked a little bit about it, but what we have to also remember is that they have technology that goes beyond our comprehension. So probably for the last 10 years and more, our phones, it is not only about being glued to the phone. It is not only about scrolling through social media and reacting with anger or fear or excitement or whatever. It is the fact that this technology is interacting directly on a subconscious level. It's sending signals to your brain, so you are already literally being programmed without even having an idea that's what's happening. And that's the TV, that's the movies, so I'm talking about not only the content of these movies or of whatever is on social media. I'm also talking about the very technology that's being used, that's being subconsciously, unconsciously played on all of us. So this is why I suggested, disconnect. Do not watch, because YouTube is infiltrated. All the platforms are infiltrated. I'm not talking about just the content, I'm talking about the technology. So do not watch. Go out in the nature. Go out and connect with the natural world. Do not get pulled into this metaverse, because it's going to look more and more attractive, and you're going to think it's your own decision, where you're being steered, you're being programmed into something you don't even know. So that's also where I'm coming from on that one.
Yeah, and we are very susceptible to programming. Obviously, it's very easy to program. That's why 2020 is such an important period of our time, because it shows how easy it was to program a huge population. Like a herd. It was just, let's have a bit of fear. Let's twist that bit of fear in people, and they'll turn against each other, because that's what happened. The ones that were, for whatever reason, were not falling for it, and it was a minority, obviously. I can't still work out fully why I was aware and the rest of my family wasn't, and why I could have a conversation with my dad, who's one of the most logical,
Yeah.
intelligent people I've ever met in my life, and he just wouldn't listen to a word
No.
I said.
No,
It was,
you know, it was the same scenario in my own family as well. You know, I was the only one from the beginning, you know, prophesizing from a, I don't know, crystal ball, apparently, what was going to happen. And then every single thing that I said happened. And that still wasn't enough. That still wasn't good enough. And now, you know, sort of 3-4 years on, yeah, they starting to sort of see some bits and bobs, but of course that denial is still very, very strong. And when you dump on them, because you know it's so late that this is not time for spoon feeding. When you dump on them what's really going on, it's too much, right?
It's frightening for people, though. Like I said before, you to step into a different world like that. When you wake up enough to the fact that the world is corrupt and actually the governments are not there to look after you, they're there to harm you, it's a completely different.
Exactly.
Everything's upside down.
Right.
It's daunting, isn't it? But I think it's the most incredible video game possible. This place, it's just insane.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, you know, they have been very, very cunning with their game, and they do not have that emotional sort of ability to function with the feelings. They don't understand feelings. They don't know what to do with the feelings, but they are very, very good at that mind, logic, analysis, calculation, intellect. They are amazing. They are ahead of us, you know, and that's what they are using. But you know, for us, this is why I suggest you disconnect from the social media, disconnect from the screen, any screen, go out to the nature, because our edge, which has always been inaccessible to them, is the heart, is the emotion, is the feeling. You know, if you listen to, I'm not saying that everything out there is the truth, but if you sort of fall back on some of the information from Jesus, Max, what's his name, the guy that was killed in Poland,
Max Spiers.
Yeah, Max Spiers. He reveals quite a lot of those information that I'm also sharing. So the heart, that emotional side, they were never able to. It would piss them off really, you know, a lot, because they've been playing with our DNA for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and we are still kicking, right? So they still cannot quite get to the honeypot, and it pisses them off. But this is only testimony to who we are, you know. So we've been dumbed down to 2 strands of DNA, and they still cannot get to us. So how annoying is that? And we are once again recognizing their game. Once again, we are, you know, at a place where their tactics and strategies are failing. They have been failing. I'm not saying that they're failing on 100% of population, but they have failed on us, and they are these people that, you know, slowly starting to at least see that something's not adding up.
Absolutely, and they are going to fail again. It's
right.
They'll get some wins, as they have done. They always do, but they're not gonna win through what their intentions are. And when you mentioned Avatar as well, and you were talking about, and it's so important, the message you're saying about getting out into nature and connecting back with our essence and our true source. That's so important. It's like, that's why the indigenous people were slaughtered by the Caucasians in recent history. It's the same story every single time, that they're taking us away from our true self, you know, and we forget who we are. This is a period of remembrance now. We've got to remember who we are.
but you know, remember also that with the indigenous people, right, the slaughter has continued for hundreds of years, in preparation for the time now. We need to put everything in the context. It was not to get their land. It was not because, you know, there was a conflict. Everything was by design, because the indigenous people, they still held those remnants of that wisdom in sense of sort of understanding. That's what I said at the beginning, that, you know, we think we are discovering now this matrix and all those things. This has been known for millennia. This is nothing new, but, you know, that would have been a wisdom sort of tucked away into legends, into mythology, into fairy tales, into indigenous stories, into shamanism. So indigenous people, the shamans, they would have been the last ones who knew not only sort of the concept of this world. They would have had this understanding that this is not all hunky-dory, that there's something more insidious going on. They would have had that aspect fully sort of understood, but also they would have had the ability to navigate and to get out of this matrix when they die, which was obviously to avoid that reincarnation trap. They would have known how to work with trauma, right? I mean, no shaman out there is going to psychotherapy, because we know that that's just mind-based dead end. It's the work with the soul. They would have been able to sort of work on a person in a holistic way to bring that wholeness, literally, of the soul, because the fact that the soul is fragmented, which is a result of trauma and programming, is literally the reason why this matrix continues to be sort of plugged into every single person, and they can continue to run those programs and that mind control over every single person. So those indigenous people, they, in a way, they held the key to exiting the matrix. So they were also of very, very big threat. And here where I am, you know, I've been very, very drawn to the indigenous people of the north of this Scandinavia region, the Sami people. And the Sami people, they have, when you analyze the genetic makeup, they have sort of a very strong connection with the people of Siberia, people of that far east sort of Siberian region. And, you know, the shamans from Siberia would have been also the first ones recognized in history, not just the Native Americans or, you know, those kind of regions, but actually Siberia and Asia, and here in the north. So the knowledge, the wisdom here in those shamanic stories, in the shamanic teachings, very, very much is based on those original alchemical teachings about women. These societies have been matriarchal. Again, I don't like that word, because it kind of it's almost like opposes the, you know, the man. That's not the intention, but there was reverence of the woman, because there was a recognition of her role, not just as a, you know, a birthing mother. That's just a little part of it, but exactly in that context that I'm talking about. So you know, when the missionaries, when Christianity came here to this land, they were fought and killed and tortured, just like the same fate as North America, South America, and other geographies, because the wisdom, the knowledge of how to sort of escape this matrix, how to be able to sort of navigate, to disconnect from that manipulative influence, that was critical, and they had it.
Do you think, I mean, we talk about escaping the matrix, and are we in a position, finding our true power, finding our true essence? Are we in a position where we can change the matrix rather than escape
Absolutely, absolutely. We, like I say, we need to understand the magnitude of the current times. When I say that prophecies are talking about end of the world, it is end of this matrix. So, so for the first time, in that historical context, it is a time where we're getting support sort of in a cosmic sense, and I'm not talking about being held by the Pleiadians or something. I'm talking about literally certain energies that are entering the planet, and this is not a new age blabber. This is influx of energies that is measurable, that you can go to institutes that are observing the sky, and they are saying that literally there's been an increase in some kind of energy that seems to be originating from the Great Rift, so from the area of the black hole in the Milky Way galaxy, and that energy is shooting our way, and that the amount has been exponentially growing since 2017. Interesting, right? All these coincidences. And while that's been happening, the same has been happening. Some kind of energy is measured, rising up, coming up from the inner earth. So those energies are meeting up in this realm. And as they are meeting up, somebody needs to receive it, and that's a woman, because woman is the cauldron to perform this alchemy and be able to kind of bring these energies, materialize them into this world. So this time round, it's a totally different context. This is not just about escaping the matrix. This is actually about dissolving this matrix as a natural consequence, as a sort of side effect of these energies entering this realm. But again, the energy is just a potential. It's going to disperse unless it is sort of captured and materialized. So that's where women come in. Why? Because that's how we are constructed. We are constructed as we have the vessel, right? The woman with the pitcher. We have the vessel, the Holy Grail, and if that is not ready to capture these energies, nothing's gonna happen. So now you understand the context of this agenda, right? Kind of getting rid of the men while pushing women into masculine behaviors. Because when a woman is, whether by necessity or by choice or by programming, pushed into masculine or sacrificial type of behaviors, she is not anywhere near where she needs to be emotionally, sort of spiritually, to be able to connect with what I'm talking about. So this is kind of breaking down into pieces. How and what's the context of the current agenda and the grand kind of a scene that's taking place as well in that cosmic context. So you see that's not really spoken on the internet about, and that's the problem, because people kind of think that it's all about the elite and it's all about exposing certain things. That's noise. Like, we know about it. We know what's going on. We know who they are. We don't pay attention there. There's a bigger fish to fry, and that's why I said, do not get pulled into those games. Go out.
So are we in the age of Aquarius now then, Ola?
Well, we are, technically, if we want to kind of be very, very technical about it, the age of Aquarius, the whole ages, age of Pisces, age of Aquarius, is to do with position of the sun against the constellation that's laying sort of behind it, right, at the spring equinox. So all that is an effect of precession of equinoxes, which is, I'm not going to go into technicalities. Why does that work? But technically speaking, we are at the gate to Aquarius. So we are just about to enter age of Aquarius. We are coming out of age of Pisces, which we were in for the past sort of over 2,000 years. Now we are stepping into age of Aquarius, and we know that because the sort of the negative expression of Aquarius is technology, AI, sort of stepping away from that organic into the very synthetic. It is everything goes digital, everything is internet, the cloud, etc. Which is we see that trend, right? Pisces very much around religion, faith, etc. We're walking away from that. We've been walking away. So when I say we are standing at the gateway, well, if we are, if I am to put my engineering hat on and sort of do the calculations, we're not yet exactly in the age of Aquarius, but this is not a binary kind of cutoff point, right? So today is age of Pisces and tomorrow Aquarius. Those energies are right now sort of intercepting. So we feel a little bit of both. We feel the Pisces moving away with the departure of religions, with the sort of exposure of the church and all the crimes that are going on out there. The kind of faith based approach is also dying. In favor of the scientific, that's Aquarius. So we see that that sort of transition already underway. However, there is the true meaning of Aquarius. There is the alchemical meaning of Aquarius. There is that meaning of Aquarius that these demonic beings are trying to prevent us from seeing, or perhaps they don't want us to remember that there is a different context there, and that is very much what we've been talking about. So this is very much a confirmation on so many levels that these energies are happening right now. That's what the prophecies were talking about. The prophecies, we need to understand the meat on the bone with those prophecies. What does that really mean, right? And that's when you sort of use that alchemical lens, everything is very, very clear. That's probably the biggest issue with a lot of interpretation of the ancient texts, that people, the academics, the scholars, or even the researchers, they don't have that alchemical, that feminine alchemy, that alchemical lens, and they end up with very much mind-based interpretations. So then we kind of missing that full context. So it's good news.
It's very good news. It's very, and I can see that happening for sure. And I think it's about people remembering, isn't it? We mentioned that people have just got to remember who they are,
exactly.
and what we're capable of. And escaping, I think we've got to have awareness of ourselves first, and then it's a process, isn't it? And my process was probably slow in comparison to others. I saw people come into my pub in 2021, 2022, who are in the 60s, and they've had to jump straight into the fire, really, of what this world is. We are receivers, aren't we, in that respect? You're talking about energies coming from planetary systems and whatever. Now, I noticed the moon has always affected me. You mentioned the moon earlier on, actually. So there was a full moon 2 weeks ago, and I was floored, literally floored for about 4 days. I was exhausted, and it always affects me in some kind of shape or form negatively when there's a full moon.
Well, that's the the moon has been brought up sort of into the sky for a reason, and that is not a positive reason. So it has how many cultures refer to the moon in with that sort of negative connotation, the word lunatic, right? The luna, the moon. And the fact that a lot of people claim that during a full moon, the emotions really run high and they get triggered much easier. I always pretty much suggest to stop paying attention to the moon, to stop sort of connecting with the moon. As per the apocalypse, the great sign in the sky, part of that sort of sequence is the fact that the woman, because what does the apocalypse say? That a woman crowned with a crown of 12 stars and with the sun. And the sun would have been around her head, so she's clothed with the sun and pregnant, and the moon at her feet What is that? Well, that is a description of a celestial event. That's a description specifically of a celestial event from 2017, the fall equinox, describing a planetary alignment around constellation of Virgo, and the moon specifically at her feet. So you see, if we only read it sort of literally, then there is not much information there. It's some kind of blabber. But when we have that alchemical lens, we find out that a woman, for the first time after thousands and thousands of years, is crowned. So it's not a crown of thorns, it's a crown. And she's taking the moon under her feet. The moon has been above her head for a very, very long time, as in the moon has been controlling the woman, controlling men, of course, as well, but specifically because of that connotation to our menstrual cycle as well. The moon was one of the main tools of control and manipulation. So the apocalyptic sign actually tells us that the moon has lost its power, has lost its control, as per the matrix design. But what's happening? It's us that continue to supply it with energy. How many women out there probably going to get triggered today as well, because I'm going to say that the moon has never been feminine. The moon is not something to be connecting with and doing rituals, and how many women continue to do that. So the sort of main power has been switched off, but we continue, the batteries continue running. So, you know, there needs to be also a change of a shift within us, so that we stop supplying that construct with energy in whatever capacity. Because even though, you know, some people probably know that I work with astrology, as in I do readings, I look at people's astrology charts and I tell them what kind of matrix code they've received. I do not have a clue what kind of moon phase it is. I do not look at the moon. I am not interested. If there is I don't really see my sort of mood or my energy fluctuating throughout the month. So I never ascribed any significance to the moon, that it's, you know, I get mad because it's the full moon. And you know, for example, the Sami people here, they even have some amulets, and they have some kind of crystals that they use to protect against the moon. So the indigenous people, they knew about this negative influence of the moon, absolutely not in this new agey way to connect with the moon and to make sort of rituals and, you know, some kind of manifestations, new moon, full moon, all this nonsense. You know, you're just feeding this matrix, that synthetic fake matrix. You continue to feed it with your energy, and then, you know, this whole process just extends even longer. So I would just, you know, advice from me is to sort of try to remove that, even because it is to an extent, it is a conditioning, it is a limiting belief that the moon is making me tired, crazy, angry, whatever. Just stop paying attention. Stop paying attention, and then you will see that there is not much difference in, you know, you don't feel that effect.
Yeah, what I love about this conversation we've had, for many things actually, but the fact that you have highlighted very much that we are powerful beings, and because I've noticed on a few channels recently, there's a lot of soul trap discussion, but it all seems very, very negative. You know, it all seems very dark, that, you know, we're just trapped and we're just going to keep coming back, you know, and this place is evil and this, that, and the other. But actually what you're saying, actually, when we come back to remembrance, once we, you know, this age is moving forward and we connect properly to our true essence, then actually it's pretty much game over anyway, because these entities are playing their last cards by the sounds of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's like a scared animal in a corner that's fighting for its survival right
Yeah.
now, where it will do whatever it possibly can.
Exactly. And also, you know, remember that, like I say, there is wisdom hidden, not just hidden, it's actually quite accessible, which describes, it gives us the answers, how to die, to get out of here. How to die, I talk about it in some of my materials. There were two ways of dying to escape this matrix reincarnation cycle, and this is not me coming up with my own theories. This is me telling you what the mythology say, and which is in line with the shamanism, which is in line with the indigenous stories, which is in line with, for example, the emerald tablets, and so on, so there is a consistent story here, and there are sort of two ways. One is along the sort of tree of life, as in, when you die, do not go to the light, go down, go into the blackness, go into that sort of black hole type of, right? No, you don't go up to the light. That's where you are being sort of drawn and manipulated into, and then you reincarnate back here. So one way would have been, and for example, Hopi tribe talks about that one as well, down the tree of life, and in the roots of tree of life, you will find a way out of this realm. That's one way. Cathars talk about another way, which is through the portal of the sun, but that one, you know, you kind of have to, there would have been certain things that you really needed to have in place to be able not to land on the moon instead of on the, you know, not be drawn by the reincarnation trap of the moon, and sort of get, and that was not to do with navigation. That was to do, kind of both scenarios are to do with resurrection when you are still alive. So the resurrection that's described in the Bible, resurrection of Jesus, which is turned into a physical resurrection of a man from death back to life, that was not the original story. The original story was about resurrection of a man, from resurrection at the soul level, from a spiritual death back to, so sort of from a spiritual death back to Pandora. Back to that kind of real organic world. How does that happen? By getting your soul back in shape, and sort of bringing that wholeness, and taking off the programming, and etc. That includes all the overlays, the sort of energetic overlays through which this matrix connects to us. So we're talking the chakras, we're talking the 7 seals, right? Or remember the story where Jesus casted out 7 demons out of Mary Magdalene. So what were the 7 demons? Well, you know, we have the sort of receivers within our energy field, and obviously the pineal gland. So we have a certain version of reality, and we have that we're sort of living out the plan of the gods. So if that is still in place when you die, you kind of, you know, like Mary Magdalene says, if you don't resurrect by life after death, it's too late. So yeah, we know the recipe. We know the recipe. You know, this is not a hopeless situation. We know the recipe. The women, the shamans, the ancient texts, they tell us, right? For those with the eyes to see, it's not that bad.
No, it's not bad at all. Ola, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been a wonderful chat. I've really enjoyed your company. So where do people find you? It's selfmasteryquest.com, I believe, and you have courses and lectures on there, I think. And
yes, you can find so I do consultations or readings of the matrix code, because that's effectively what numerology, astrology are. They are not tools for growth and tools for, you know, to sort of I don't want to sort of take time now explaining a new concept, but effectively we've been lied about this sort of realm being about learning and soul growth. Nope. This is your matrix code. This is designed to keep you away from your full potential, from stepping into that full potential which is already within you. So I offer these kind of readings to investigate that. I also offer alchemical consultations, so for women who would like to go deeper into what we, for example, talked about today. And then I have another website. I've decided to sort of keep it separate, mysticalarcticjourneys.com, and that's where I keep all my tours, events here in the Arctic, in Lofoten, in this beautiful legendary land, according to the stories of this region, the ancient Hyperborea. Trees of Eden, pyramids, we have it all here. Wow, and amazing energy centers, so something to definitely experience. And I would say, you know, this region has beautifully transformed me. It has done a tremendous job on me at some point. And yeah, it's not just the region, you know, here the veil between worlds is very, very thin. So if you come here, you're gonna experience magic, to say the least.
Ola, before we go, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So you've got a mission. So somewhere inside, there's a mission inside you, isn't there? This is why you're doing what you're doing. You must feel that you must do this. I have the same thing. Whatever's going on, I'm doing this for a reason. Sometimes I don't know why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But there's something important for me to do what I'm doing. Now we're in this matrix, but we're still breaking out of it in a way there, because there's a mission. We're not. I don't feel I'm being played.
Yeah,
I feel I've got something to do. Does that make sense with you?
Yeah, it makes sense. So you see, to me, from what I've seen, not sort of everything in your chart is, majority things in the chart is from the matrix, but that majority, so the matrix, what's coming from the matrix is around trauma. So a lot of patterns that are going to replay in your life, and that's called a lesson or karma. Yeah, that's a lie. All that is that's a matrix. Karma is a matrix construct. It's an Eastern construct for those that like the idea of, you know, paying for what they've done. And obviously, in Christianity, that's called the sin. So you have to pay back for that one too. But you know. So in a context of trauma, patterns, some sort of repeating themes that are limiting, slowing you down, etc. Well, that is the matrix kind of doing. But I do believe that we have that spark inside of us, and every single one of us came here to express themselves in some capacity, and that is not the matrix programming you to feel that. That is you. That's you connecting to the soul and trying to be that expression from which you're being very much sort of you know, detoured, and I would say that Matrix is doing everything they can through whatever you received in that programming, in that conditioning, in that trauma, in those patterns, in the challenges, etc., to kind of keep you away from, you know, to be the good boy on a hamster wheel, you know, behaving, rather than going after that purpose where you become a threat.
I love it. That's the perfect way of ending this conversation, Ola. Thank you so much for
My
this.
pleasure.
And I really do hope we can do it again in the future. So thank you.
Absolutely, that would be my pleasure. If anybody is still there watching, not sleeping, good night, everybody, from from the Arctic.